Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast, show number 57. It's the dash in the middle. It's not the day we're born, the day we pass. It's the dash. And I really think people need to spend more time making your dash count.
Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We've spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we can have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Now, finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life. Now, sit back, turn up the volume, smash that follow button, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. All right, so welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, with my amazing, awesome guest co-host,
Josh. I am not Tiffany. Josh.
Well, to be honest, right now we're in a cabin in Gatlinburg, and it just so happened Tiffany and I took this vacation. I just got back from this long military training, and I said, Tiffany, I'm going to treat you right. We're going to go on this 5-day no kids vacation to the mountains. We're going to go to this beautiful little cabin, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, jacuzzi tub overlooking the Smoky Mountains, called the Cupid's. What is it again?
The Cupid's Shuffle.
Cupid's. It's the Cupid's Crossing.
Cupid's Crossing.
And I get up here and I make this post, and Josh texted me, he said, hey, just so you know, I did not follow you up here, but we're 15 minutes away.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, hey, I'm just down the road, man. This is awesome.
And weirdly enough, back home in Georgia, we also live 15 minutes away.
Yes, like literally 15 minutes away. I'm following you wherever you go. Wherever he leads, I'll go.
Take me to church.
Take me to church.
Listen, so you might be wondering, who is Josh Boyd? Why does he matter? And why is he on the podcast? Well, Josh Boyd and I have a relationship that goes back 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And I met Josh when I was a young and very hungry teacher. I was a music teacher. And when you finish your music degree, you have to go do this thing called student teaching. And I was introduced to Joshua Boyd through some of my professors at the school I was going to. And I ended up shadowing you the very first time I went to go student teach. So that's kind of how our life started, to get to know each other. And over the course of the 13 years that followed that, Josh wrote a lot of recommendations for me to get new jobs. I taught with Josh on many of occasions at the different programs he taught at. And he just got to see me grow up as a band director.
It's so funny. You know, now you have a podcast called the On Purpose Investor Podcast, but I knew you as a teacher before you got going with this. And I always said as a teacher, which doesn't surprise me now that you're teaching, because you were the one, I think I told you this in your early 20s. I was like, Eric, you're the one in a million. Like I always knew you were going to be a rock star. You did it in a completely different way than what I originally thought. And so it's so funny because now it's so funny. Like you were a student and I was a teacher, and now I'm the student and you're the teacher. But nah, man, I love what you're doing. You're rocking it. But
I really appreciate awesome. That. So the way Josh and I became re-entwined in this teacher-student, student-teacher relationship is that Josh was a part of Dream Life University that we hosted back in September, October, November of last year.
Changed my life.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about, what did Dream Life do for you? What was the life of the Boyd home before Dream Life, and what is it today?
So much to unpack here, Eric. So much to unpack. So the first thing is as I'll say this, how I got into Dream Life is, and for those of you that are listening to the podcast, maybe you've just found this show at random somehow. I actually know Eric, like he just said, as a person, and I've watched the change. And I remember when Eric first told me, hey, I'm going to leave teaching to go do this other thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right. And then finally it was about a year ago, because we have an infant now at our house, which is an important part of this story. I have a little baby, and I realized, oh my gosh, well, at the same time, Eric here has just been like just crushing the game. So finally I called him up and I'm like, okay, look, your life plan is better than my life plan. I need you to teach me, because you know something that I don't know. And I'm humble, man. Teach me. And that's where I first learned. He said, well, I got this thing called Dream Life University coming up. And I'm like, I want to dream life. That sounds cool. Dream Life University. I'm a school person.
There we go.
I'm all in. So we can unpack as much or as little as you want. But here's what I learned in your course. Number one, everybody wants a dream life. But up until I took your course, I never actually thought about what that actually was. And so that's the first thing is, and I don't want to give too much away of the course, because
No, I
everyone
want
out
you
there
to-
really needs to.
So Dream Life University was our very first iteration of us trying to help people uncover their true potential.
Yeah.
And uncover a life that they can get to the end stage of their life and look back and say, I did it all with intention. I did it all with 100% clarity. And I'm no way ashamed of how my life went. I'm so grateful that I experienced life with hyper intentionality. And I got to this point on purpose.
I arrived at a place I planned on getting to.
That's right.
That's a big thing.
Like Yogi Berra, I love this quote, and I use it in our book, Pathfinders Journey. Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're headed, you'll end up someplace else. And that is the truth with most people. And the majority of people spend more time planning their birthday or their child's birthday than they ever will planning the rest of their life. And when I heard that statistic, and there are other programs out there that do this, but when we heard that statistic, it's like, we got to try to coach people and teach people and help people to uncover their true potential, because they need to start planning more time on their life and really grasping their true potential and harnessing it and taking it to the next level. So I know you're saying you don't want to try to give away too much about Dream Life. You're not going to.
Okay.
Because
all right.
Dream Life is actually no more. It was a one and done. Dream Life is now Dream Life is now just part one of a many faceted series of a larger course called Secure Legacy Code. And Secure Legacy Code is going to be coming out in the fall of this year. So whatever you have to say about Dream Life, I want you to say it all, say it truly, because that is just the first part of Secure Legacy Code. And we're going to be getting to a little bit more detail in future podcasts discussing what is Secure Legacy Code and how is it going to change your life. So Dream Life, tell me what it did for you.
So it did a lot. The very first thing is the part of the course was I remember you saying, because it had live sessions and then we had homework and stuff that we did after that. And part of the live session was talking about a dream life. And I'm like, there's nothing really significant. But then the homework was actually write it out. And it grew. In fact, I still have a Google Drive with all this stuff in it. But I had never actually took the time to write that out. And when I started to write that out, I realized something, that I'm spending all this time, I'm living my life every day, but I don't know where I'm going. Everybody just says, I want to be rich. Well, rich how? I want my family to like me. Well, like you because you did what? And I never wrote out what Dream Josh would look like. And so step one is I wrote out what Dream Josh would look like. And then I remember getting back with you. And then you said, what would it look like if you dreamed bigger than this? Now, I'm going to pause here and tell you something that you really helped me unlock inside of myself. I don't even know if it was the intent of the course, but I had to ask myself, why do I feel like I'm not worth dreaming bigger than this? Like, why am I limiting this? And I have to tell you, that was a big change inside of me, as I had to finally learn, you know what? It is okay. I don't come from rich backgrounds. My family are all good people, work hard their whole life. But I have to admit, I'm not so sure that I believed until I took that course that I was even worth dreaming big. I mean, does that sound crazy to you?
No,
I mean,
and that is the law of limiting beliefs. And everyone has a set of limiting beliefs, even if that person is hyper wealthy, because there's always a next level.
Right.
And usually there's a great book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And one of the laws that has always stuck with me is the law of the lid. And a lot of us always put this lid on our potential. And now John puts it in a way to where you have a natural lid. And your natural lid is essentially you're only going to get a company or yourself this far in life. But a lot of people put that lid on ourselves. There's a great story that I used within the book Pathfinder's Journey, and that I love the way Steve Harvey tells it. If you go Google Steve Harvey, Fleas in a Jar. This is the idea of what limiting beliefs are. If you put a bunch of fleas in a jar with no lid, those fleas are automatically going to jump out because a flea can jump. I don't remember how far of a percentage it is, but it's something like 1,000 times the height of their own body. They can jump 1,000 times higher than that. Imagine if you and I could jump 1,000 times taller than ourselves.
That would be awesome.
I'm just a little under 6 foot tall, but if I could jump a mile into the sky,
I'd be winning some NBA championships.
I'm telling you what. So that's what fleas can do. But if you put a lid on that jar and that flea tries to jump, boom, they're going to hit the lid, right? And then you continue to do that and hit the lid. Well, now that flea has babies, and that baby grows up in an environment where the father and mother never jump even close to the lid. They never even get close to the lid. They just see mom and dad jump just a little bit. And that's what they're conditioned to do. Now you pass that down generation to generation. And now you have 3 to 4 generations of fleas believing that the only height they could ever jump to is what their parents did and what their parents did and what their parents did.
They never reached their potential.
Ever, because there was always a lid there conditioned to their beliefs. So what I try to do is to teach people that you have the ability to remove the lid that you didn't even know was there. How high can you truly jump? And that is the law of limiting beliefs. How can you remove those limiting beliefs and truly jump to your true potential? Well, it starts by setting out unrealistic goals.
Yeah.
And with all of the students, they gave me their goals and I looked at them, I said, that's not crazy enough. And it wasn't. Every single one of them. It's like, I want to have, 5 houses, or I want to have X amount of dollars in monthly cash flow, or I'd like to have X amount of dollars in net worth by the time I'm 60, or I want to have, X amount of different types of investment courses or investment strategies that I'm bought into. And every single one of them was like, it seemed so realistic. It's like, yeah, of course you can do that. Like that is so achievable. I want it to be unrealistic. Like I want it to scare the pants off of you.
Yeah. I remember too, because the whole course was about living with intentionality. In other words, be intentional. Every day you wake up, you do things, be intentional about them. Well, until you write down your dream life and dream it big, you can't be intentional towards that goal. Right. And something else that really stuck out with me about the course is the whole idea of being intentional. And this may be true for a lot of guys, maybe some ladies too. We get very caught up into our work, and our work becomes our identity. But here's some power that you gave me when I wrote down what my dream life is. And by the way, if you're listening to this, my dream life was not about wealth as far as dollars. It was a lot about time. And then I realized that to get to time, I needed wealth. But here's what I discovered. I'm a teacher by trade. I realized that my dream life was not wrapped up in a profession. It was wrapped up in becoming a certain type of person. And then the journey became, what path do I choose to become that type of person? And that was, I think, maybe even deeper than the course in some ways.
Yeah.
But that's a huge thing that I took out of that, because it's caused some changes, because I don't identify Josh Boyd as far as within a profession. I've decided that I'm Josh Boyd and I'm trying to become an intentional person, which has led to some pretty big wins that we actually been talking about today.
Yeah. So let's dive into some of those wins. Let's go to Josh Boyd, pre-Dream Life University. What did your daily life look like? Where were you living? What did your family life look like? And just explain that.
Yeah. So my dream life, without giving you the reading it down, because it's a lot. I mean, he literally had us go in and write our ideal day, minute by minute. And I wrote it out, sir. I'll have you know, it's literally pages long. So for me, my dream life is time. And here's the reason why. My pre-dream life, I mean, I would wake up every day at about 5 o'clock, but I didn't go to the gym, Eric. Like I would wake up at 5 o'clock and eat my bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which is horrible for me. Who knows? Some days I'd go get a Pop-Tart to go with it. I mean, just really, really bad. I would listen to music, go about my day. I would get in the car, and then I would be at work, in my case, teaching really, really early, 6:30. And then including the extra hours I would put in at my job, my average work day is 6:30 a.m. to about 9 o'clock p.m. at night. I'm a high school band director, so that's my typical time coming home. Then I'd come home and I'd be so beat down and so tired. I wouldn't spend as much time with the kids as I'd want to. I wasn't the father. I think I wanted to be a good father. But what I realized through your course is if I stayed the same direction, you told us to choose our dream life, but you also taught me to consider what the worst case scenario was. And if I stayed the same, I realized, Eric, I was spending 14 hours a day with no time and not being a good husband to my wife, not being a good father to my kids. Volunteering at my church, which is important to me, was not a part of that. So my worst case scenario of becoming a person I didn't want to be I realized in that moment that I was already living that worst case scenario. And that hurt me a lot on the inside. And I will tell you, that's a part of the course too that brought some pain to me, because I realized I'm already living a life by the motions. And in doing so, I'm not reaching not just any potential, but I'm actually at my lowest potential.
Right. So many people understand the situation they're in. They get it. Like it's their reality. But far too few people evaluate their plight in life. They don't evaluate and put value to how they feel at that point of their life, or what emotion comes to them when they truly reflect and get down to, how do I really feel about how I'm living? And when you can do that with the utmost sense of honesty with yourself and truly humble yourself to be honest and say, I'm not proud of where I am. Now, just because you're not proud of where you are doesn't mean you can't be proud of where you're going. And that really drives us into what's changed, because so much has changed for you.
Yeah, a lot. A lot.
Lay it on us. Let's hear it.
So, and there's a path that's we got to talk to that gets us into like the big scary things. Cause like, I'm all in on some real estate stuff that I'm doing now. But before that, I would tell you some things that have changed. I wake up at the same time every morning. I have an infant now, so there's a bottle in the middle of there.
Yeah.
But I'm more intentional. I take time. I want to have a greater spiritual life. So I'm being intentional about spending time. For me, being a person of faith, spending time in the Bible every day in the morning, because if I want to live a better life, there's a moral code there that I buy into. So I spend some time developing that moral code. Some other things too is listening to podcasts and educational materials. I want to make some shifts in my life. And there are people out there, you being one of those who wrote the Pathfinders journey. And if you are out there and haven't read it yet, I hope that you'll go read the book, because that's a huge game changer for me. You mentioned John Maxwell. That's just so there's a wealth of knowledge out there. So before I get into that shower in the morning, I take the time that I spend at least 30 minutes there doing something. I call it an inspiration, something that inspires me. It can be a podcast. It can be book. It can be whatever. Then I go about my day. And right now, because I'm still teaching, love teaching. And if you're one of my high school students out there listening to this, I love you.
He does. He really means that.
I love you guys. But I call my car now, the university of my life. And I don't just listen to music anymore. Now I'm riding down the road. I'm listening to something that inspires me, something business related, something that's going to get me to that area of more time. I want to listen to more successful people tell their stories of how they became successful, because it inspires me to be successful. And anyways, here's something else too. Andy Stanley preached a sermon called Guardrails.
I loved that sermon.
Oh man,
that series was so good. Like for your marriage,
yes,
as a high school kid, as just a partner in any type of business, as just a person of faith, Guardrails was entirely too helpful to be so free.
It was
like,
massive.
It was so good.
And what's crazy is I was re-listening to that sermon about the same time I was coming through dream life, and I realized I need to be a better husband. So we have guardrails, my wife and I. Like there's a certain point where I come home, and now when I come home, I turn off my phone as best I can. But I make time now to hang out with the kids. We're here. The place that we're at. I don't know if you said the city we're at, but
we're in Gatlinburg.
We're in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
And spending time with family and making time for those things. Because part of my dream life is that at the end of this life, I don't care about being rich. I care that my kids look back at me and don't just say he's my dad, but he's a person that loved me and he took care of me. He was an important part of my life. He was a day-to-day person there. I got a little baby and I'm 40 and I got to get this little bundle of man to become an adult man somehow and do it in physical health. So I've started paying attention to what I eat and some things like that. And then to answer the final thing, because I realize I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good.
You talked a lot about have a dream life, think it's bigger, and then invest in yourself. My family was going on mega cruises. I've taken 22 cruises in the last 11 years.
That's a lot. That could be a record.
It's a lot. But why? I was spending so much of my money and my time, honestly, to get away from my life. And let that sink in. So many Americans, and me being one of those, and if you're out there listening, I need you to know, this isn't judgmental. I've lived 40 years of my life where I was you. I was willing to spend thousands of dollars every year to escape my life because I didn't know where it was going. But now that I have a dream life and I know where I'm going, I want to invest that money into me more. And so, um, started investing in real estate. We have a rental that we recently took down. I have become a renovator in chief. I'm joking around. I call my main man Eric here and say, "Hey, you'll get a good laugh at this paint job that I just did." But I'm really, really excited. I've about 3 more weeks before this one's going to turn over. We already have tenants contacting us about getting into it. And so I'll have that first cash flowing deal done. I have my real estate agent's license now and helping other people accomplish their dreams, which is exciting, get into their first home or sell their home or other investors, which is great because their inspiration keeps me inspiration. It's like a cycle of positivity. And, you know, I'm starting to see things all around me. And here's the craziest thing. I'll say this and then I'll stop talking. All the deals and things related to real estate, but let me just say all the people, you included, they were always around me the whole time. Dream Life opened up my eyes. It didn't create a world. It helped me to open up my eyes and see what was always around me. And I wonder, Eric, how many more millions of Americans out there have everything they need right around them, but their eyes just aren't open enough to see it.
Yeah. I call that zombie syndrome.
Yeah.
And the majority of us sleepwalk through our entire life.
That was me.
And the feeling is so I'm going to try to put it into a story because that's the way I love to teach. You get in the car and you drive to work. And let's say it's a 45-minute drive. Now, aside from the random, you know, you're driving through traffic and there's a car on fire. Like that doesn't happen every day. Or, you know, someone was bicycling backwards down the freeway. That you don't see that every day.
Nope.
But you drive to work, it's a 45-minute drive. You wake up, you do your coffee, you do your morning thing, you get in the car, you drive to work, you get to work, and then you start doing your work stuff. Too often, we get to work and it's like, how did I get here?
Right.
It's like, I don't remember leaving
any of that.
I don't remember leaving my driveway. I don't remember changing lanes. Did I turn my blinker on when I merged? If you're in Atlanta, you definitely didn't. I don't know.
I usually hold up my cup of coffee and I'm like, I don't even remember buying this.
Right. Yeah. So like I call it zombie syndrome, and it's sleepwalking through your life. And Josh is so right. There are so many of us and so many people out there that will, I hope one day hear about this podcast, but there are so many people out there that need to hear these words right here on this show, on this podcast is, you got to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. You got to wake up. And how do you wake up from your sleepwalking life? Now, you're probably thinking, I'm awake. I mean, I'm listening to you. And if I wanted to turn you off, I can right now. And you probably just did. But if you didn't and you're still listening, good for you because you've just started to wake up. Now, waking up doesn't just mean that you're aware. Being aware is what we need to be, right? We need to be aware if the house is on fire, you grab an extinguisher and call 911, right? But being hyper intentional means that you were so aware of the safety in your home that you made sure a fire would never happen, that you would never have to put out a fire. That is living life hyper intentionally. That is making sure that you are set up for success in every step of your life. And that's what we set out to do with Dream Life University. Now, Dream Life University is only segment 1 of, it's either 5 or 6 segments now of a series called the Secure Legacy Code. And Secure Legacy Code is going to be coming out this fall. And Tiffany and I are going to be doing everything we can to give you what we can on this podcast so that you understand, is it right for you? Now, it's not going to be right for everybody. For everybody listening to this podcast, it's really going to take someone that is really coachable. Now, what does it mean to be coachable? To be coachable, it means I have to be able to give you something and you be honest with yourself and say, that's for me. That's hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
It's so hard to do.
And I'll say this too, and we alluded to it a little bit. There's a lot of people that take classes, but you know, I hope you've picked up, like we dug into it, like did the work, like gave the homework. I'm like going above and beyond because my life mattered that much to me. And I'd like to throw this in here too, like when you're considering this course that I hope all of you will take, because it, beyond the emotional things, man, I got into my first deal, Eric, because of you. I'm looking at more deals. I got my whole future trajectory changed because I just took the intro course. I can't wait to be the first person. And this next one, like, I'm hyped up about it. Identify your why. And if your why is big enough, you need to get on board with this because you need to unlock your why. And one of the things I like what Eric and Tiffany do that work for me, I'm coming this from a teacher, and I've talked a little bit about real estate, is they help me to understand how. And my understanding is like there's like a world of options of life. Now, how? I know they exist, but how do I do that? What does that look like? And you and Tiffany just do such a great job of helping people find out what they need to do and how to do it. So
I don't mean for this whole episode to be a pitch about SLC. Like I said, it's not going to be for everyone, and that is understandable. You got to be really coachable. You got to be dedicated, and you have to be committed to it. So if you understand that your life is not heading that direction, that's okay. But if you are interested in hearing about SLC, our secure legacy code, please direct message us the letters SLC, and we'll be sure to get you some information about the course. Y'all, what I think Josh is really underselling himself on is that he has gone from the status quo of what every American wants to do. Josh has a doctorate in music education. He is not just Josh Boyd. He's Dr. Josh Boyd.
I went to school a really long time.
And he's living what a lot of Americans would consider to be the American dream. You know, you could essentially just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, for me, my dream life is not more money. I mean, we're not wealthy, but I make good money. Mm-hmm. It's time. What's the one resource that you can't get more of? In fact, since we've been recording this show, it has passed and I can never go back and get it again.
That's right. But you can go on YouTube and watch it.
But I can't. Never mind. I'm just kidding. It's time. And that's I think true. Too, and just speaking for folks that are out me, they're like, hey, Eric and Tiffany, I make a good amount of money. Why do I need to think about my dream life? Because I am secure. Yeah. You may be like I was, but do you remember when I told you about where I started? My days where I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and they didn't end until 9 o'clock. And I realized, look, money can't buy happiness. Neither can time, but time spent in the right ways, man, what a happiness that would be to spend time with family and joy. That's my dream life.
Yeah.
I always want to make room that some people out here may have a different dream life.
Right. And understanding that time well spent toward the things that bring you happiness, none of that really comes into your brain unless you wake up and stop sleepwalking and you stop living the zombie life and you get honest with yourself about what really makes you happy. It's so many people have no idea what really brings them joy.
Yeah.
They don't understand it.
I used to teach my high school students this that I coach. All of us on our tombstone is going to have a born on date and a date that we pass because death and taxes, the thing's certain in life. You will be born, you will die. But that's not the thing that I really think your course does because there's something else on the tombstone that matters so much more. And what it is it's the dash in the middle. It's not the day we're born, the day we pass. It's the dash. And I really think people need to spend more time making your dash count. I always tell my students, what you do is preparing you to make your dash matter because one day the dash ends.
That's right. And we all have an expiration date. And, only God has that predestination plan of when it happens. We don't know. And what is that thing that goes above your born and death day? Is that called an epitaph?
Ooh.
Or what's that thing called? Or just the
born or the guy? I don't know.
So it's like, in loving memory of, so-and-so, good father and sailor of the U.S. Navy. Is that an epitaph?
I think so. I think you're right.
We're going to go with epitaph, right? I
Where's
like
my chat GPT?
Yeah. So like the dash is so important, but so is that epitaph. What kind of legacy are you going to try to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered? What legacy do you really want to leave behind? All of that legacy is going to be in the dash. And then the story that you wrote for yourself is going to be spelled out on that tombstone. And so I was talking about Josh underselling himself. He's Dr. Boyd, but in between November and we're in June, he has since gone to real estate school. He has a real estate license.
Yep.
You have written, a dozen offers.
Yep. I have.
if not more. You have negotiated with several sellers.
Yep.
You have secured a contract, closed the contract, funded the contract, gotten the project through almost all of the renovation.
There. Yep.
And now you're about to set it up as a rental.
Yeah.
And not only that, you have 3 more deals in the pipeline
Yeah.
ready to fund, tackle, renovate, and rent.
Yeah. 3 more deals in the pipeline that I'm looking at. And that's in addition to the ones where, as an agent, we're helping other people with, I'll steal your line, find their dream home.
That's it. If you help enough other people achieve what they want in life, you will too get what you want and need in life. That is a Zig Ziglar quote.
Well, and it's so fun that you're talking about other people, because you've encouraged this, you've encouraged it in the course, but this is a team sport. I think you've said it on this podcast.
I think I say it almost every single podcast.
And I'm still learning this. So number one, I would assume if you set it up similar, you're probably going to meet some financial friends, other people in the course, probably some collaboration.
Yeah.
That was huge, because within our course, and I won't say all their names since I didn't ask their permission, but there was another real estate agent. There was one person that was taking Dream Life that was already an investor that was further ahead of me. I remember hearing a story and getting a chance to learn from these people and communicate. And then you encouraged us to go to a meeting. So I went to our first real estate investors meeting here, which took me years. This guy invited me to this meeting like 3 years ago. I was already a member of the Facebook group, silently stalking, but scared to show up. And it is funny. It has single-handedly changed my life by meeting other people who are in the game and inspire me to be better. And I think that's a huge part of what you do is connections.
It takes community. And if you're trying to do this by yourself, you're just planning to fail, or you're planning to achieve it in such a slow pace that you will either burn out or you will spend a lifetime trying to get there. You'll be like most of Americans that spend their life chasing retirement, and then they spend 62 years to get to retirement. And when they finally get there, they only have 8 to 10 years left in their life to really enjoy and soak up and try to get as much in that dash as they possibly can.
You know what would have been really bad if I hadn't gone through Dream Life? Because I was aiming at nothing, I was chasing a different life at that time. The worst case scenario is, Eric, what if I had caught that life that I was chasing? Can you imagine me at 20-hour days nonstop for 20 more years? What would I look like? What would I got a lot of gray now. I'm half bald. But can you imagine, number one, what I would look like? Would my kids know who I am? Would I still be married? Because Rachel, my wife may have walked out on me at that point. I mean, what the worst case scenario is if I'd gone blindly, what if I had caught the life that I was after? That would be awful.
I love to say that everyone has a ladder leaned up against some building. Everybody has a ladder, and everybody's ladder is leaned against some type of building. And everyone's climbing that ladder. Every day you take another fractional step toward the top of that ladder. Now, here comes the part where is most important. Is the ladder you're climbing the one that you really want to be on top of? When you get to the top of that building, is that the building you really want to be on top of? Or are you going to be up there and be able to see everything else around you and be like, oh my God, I wish I climbed a different ladder. I never wanted to be here in the first place. That could be where you were at. Yeah. You could have gotten to the top of that ladder and realized, oh my gosh, on the first 2 steps, this was my ladder. But I should have climbed down and taken it to this other building and started climbing that one, because that's really the building I wanted to be at. And that's the truth of it. We're all climbing a ladder. You're on whatever rung of that ladder you're on, and it doesn't matter your age or your financial security. It doesn't matter anything. Everyone's climbing a ladder.
My ladder was leaned up against a building that somebody else owns.
Yeah.
And as you're speaking, I'm sitting here thinking, I learned that I wanted to lean my ladder up a building that I owned.
Yeah. Yeah. Either one you own.
We're getting deep now.
Or, and maybe it might be a building that someone else owns, and you are the type of person that you don't want to be a business owner. You don't want to own rental properties. You don't want to do any of the stuff we talk about, but you love the hyper intentionality part of what we teach. And I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're listening. Just
worth it.
Take the in-depth insight look of your life and figure out, are you really climbing the right ladder for yourself? Because that ladder may be someone else's business.
That's fine.
And you believe in their cause and you believe in what they do and you trust the process of what they are all about. And you're proud to be on top of that ladder, because there's a lot of people that, serve their entire careers in the military and they love that they have climbed that ladder. And when they get to the top of that ladder and they've served 40 years in the military and they're at the top, they are so proud of what they've done. And I'm proud for them. And
I'm thankful for them too. I'm glad there's people that their life calling, their ladder is attached to the building of service.
Yeah.
And that they serve our country or serve others like that. Like that's
whether
great
it's,
example.
Fire department or police department, maybe their religious building that they're in and they're trying to serve others. The service industry in general, serving other people is a very thankless and selfless thing. But maybe your ladder's climbing up something different. But just take that insight look into your life and say, am I truly wanting to continue climbing this ladder? That's important. That's a lot about what we teach here at On Purpose Investor. But at the end of it all, you want to be in your deathbed and look at all of those people that are surrounding you. And you want to be able to look at them and be just proud. You want to be proud that you did what you did in your life on purpose, and that you gave it your all, and that you were intentional. And all of those people in that room knew what you stood for. They knew that you were a person of character, and that you were a person of grace, and that you were a person that was, full of integrity, and that you gave to others. That's where I want to be on my deathbed. I want to look at those around me. I want to see my children and my children's children and my children's children's children. I want to live that long, right?
Yes.
And I just want to be thankful. I want to be thankful that they care about me and that I made such an impression on them that they wanted to be there with me, and that I lived a life of integrity, that they believed in me, and that they supported me, and that I was leaving behind a legacy, that they were proud to say, my dad is Eric Vogel. My grandfather's name is Eric Vogel. My great very great is Eric Vogel. And I want you to be able to say that with your name. And I want you to be able to truly believe it when you say it. And it's a really weird exercise. And it really takes you to a unique space that not a lot of people go to, into that space of, you truly visualize yourself on a deathbed. And you open your eyes and you see the people that matter most to you, and you envision what your children's children would look like. And you envision what your great grandchildren would look like. And you open your eyes and you're so thankful that you're surrounded by those people and that they feel the way about you that they do. And that feeling is warm, and that feeling is true. And it's not, self-created. It's raw. Visualization is a very powerful tool that can really transport you. And that's one thing that we're really going to be getting into in the Secure Legacy Code, is a lot of visualizations and a lot of trying to really open you up so that you can truly see inside of yourself. So that was just a little taste of where we're headed.
Yeah, everyone wants a legacy. Go secure it. I mean, if you want to leave a legacy or you want to leave something behind for someone that's worth having, then go secure it. And it sounds like this is a great way to get started. And I think I love that word legacy, because that's something I want to leave behind. As a coach, I had hit a point where I realized I was leaving a legacy for everybody else's kids, but was I leaving a legacy for mine?
No.
And I love that it's so funny with a person like you, with all your success and all that you've done, you lead the idea with what does all the future Vogels with your your 20 generations of grands, because that's what legacy is.
That's it.
Is the people around us. What do they think about us, and how can we make their lives better? And that's just a huge thing, man. So I'm excited. I'm count me. I'm ready to go.
Well, listen, Josh is lucky. Well, not lucky. He made a very conscious decision to purchase Dream Life University, and he's going to get every single future iteration of DLU, which is now SLC, for free. It's going to be coming to him. So dab away. If you're not watching on YouTube, he was just dabbing both ways about 7 times.
Yes.
So I don't want you to miss out on getting into SLC this year. As it grows, as it gets bigger, we want you to be a part of the growth of what we're building. All right. So here at the On Purpose Investor podcast, our show is all about hyper-intentionality, and newly minted by my beautiful wife, Tiffany, we are building real estate investor titans, right? So we wanted to help transform you from who you are today to who you need to become to live that dream life as a real estate investor titan. Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Any words of wisdom you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah, simply, if you have a dream life and you want to go do it, you are worth it. You are valuable. Get out there and crush it. I mean, just a year ago, I didn't think I was worth it. And today I've taken down one door, and I'm making a commitment that hopefully by the time we get ready for this course, I'm going to take down 2 or 3 more doors. And I also want to find 5 or 6 friends and get them connected and help them reach their dreams too, because this is awesome. It's not just enough for me. Let's see if we can all get there to success together, man.
Let's truly make it a team sport. And y'all, I appreciate you tuning into the On Purpose Investor podcast each week. If you haven't, like and share this with your friends and family or anyone that you know that might benefit from this show. Every time that you share this, it truly helps our growth, and it helps us to reach more people to further their dream lives. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get all the latest updates. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review wherever you watch our podcast. All right, now go smash that subscribe and follow button for more tips on building your dream life. See you next week, Pathfinders.